Here's some amazing Kickstarter advice from 10 very successful creators. Let's get into number 1.
But then every decision that we made was we were always thinking of why should someone care about the crooked move? Why should someone care? We don't take for granted that we put a lot of work into it, so therefore you should support us. We were always thinking, and this, comes from my decade of marketing experience, of giving the consumer and the audience a reason to care and a reason to back. And I think a lot of where a lot of crowdfunding goes wrong is just the implicit framework that a lot of creators go into it of, oh, I worked really hard on this and I really want this to happen, so therefore people should back me. And they're not thinking about the people that they're actually asking to pledge and to back with their hard-earned money. And so really consumer first, audience first, evangelist fan first.
For example, every single email, I actually spend hours. I literally spend hours. To this day, I still do. I send to my mailing list. I send about one email a month, sometimes even less. But every email, I really think it through. I try to make it not too long, and I want the people to feel okay, it comes from me. They have a special relationship with me. And then it was so that was on the mailing list. Then it was the same on the forum and on the ads. Actually, every single comment on the ad, even the really angry comments, I would reply to them. And sometimes it was terrible. People just wanted to bitch about things, and so they just send an angry comment, and that's it. Sometimes people were surprised because they would write an angry comment saying, "Oh, this is an ad, so clearly it's lying." And then they would be surprised an actual person replies and says stuff that are real. And they'd be like, "Oh, sorry." It was like, "Oh, I didn't realize there was a human behind this." And I think we live in this weird world where people are just bombarded with things. And especially on Facebook and Instagram, when they see the sponsored at the top, it's like they already come with a negative mindset. So that was definitely a big part of building the community.
A lot of people are launching their campaigns on ads without even knowing how much their product costs. It's like they launch their campaign and then they're like, right, now I'm going to figure it out. Whereas in actual fact, I would rather you figure it out and know exactly the sample quality you're getting, the factory you're working with, the price that you're getting, your delivery time, and then you can launch with full confidence.
And so as far as numbers go, we spent $12,500 on social media ads collecting these emails, and we had 5,500 emails total collected right before we launched. And out of those 5,500, 1,600 were what we call VIPs, which were the people who reserved the game for $1 before we launched. And so those guys, and this is what Launch Boom, teaches over there, is how to cultivate that audience, and their resources and coaching and the community they built over there is just incredible. And that's honestly what helped us to get this audience cultivated and ready to go for our launch. And so those 1,600 people, I couldn't believe how much they came through for us on that day one, which is what you're going for when you launch. Because if you can get a big day one, then you're the organic growth you get from that is insane. I think we probably made 40% of everything we made on Kickstarter just from that organic growth, and that comes from the pre-marketing and getting ready for that big day one.
Hardware doesn't have that luxury, right? Manufacturing's expensive, shipping and logistics and supply chain, and there's just a million things that don't exist in software. So hardware is hard. And you also have other things you have to put up a whole bunch of money and decide what your order quantity is before you sell it in most cases, right? And so if you get that wrong, and you suddenly have a warehouse full of stuff that no one wants to buy, you are in trouble. That's the type of thing that folds a company. And so I think unless you already have significant data that indicates a product is going to work for your customers, and in terms of they want it, then you should really launch a product with a crowdfunding campaign, because that's going to tell you some super important things. It's going to tell you like what order quantity you should like create right off the bat, right? And that's like a mega important data point.
And as part of that, we built our target super fan, defined like everything about her, like how old is she, what does she do, where does she work, what, is she a social gamer, how does she envision using this game, how many games does she have, and we came up with this girl Mary who was effectively like Amy plus like having game parties.
I would like some if we had more time.
Yeah. And then from there we were able to say, well, what meta ads is Amy going to be or Mary going to be attracted to? What box cover? And it was all, Amy's designing all this stuff. And so that really affirmed what we were sort of already planning to do. Like if you look at our Kickstarter page for like positioning and messaging, a lot of Kickstarters, you go to them and the first thing they have is a spread of all the tokens and meeples and miniatures and everything that come in the game. And the very first thing on our page was just the game on a table outside on the back half of our farm, in nature. And there were some
vintage pieces,
antique pieces with it. And then there you go. Well, that's because Amy liked that. We thought it should be first, but also then we realized that that's what Mary would like. And so when Mary looked at our Kickstarter page, Mary from Image One is ready to back this game.
I didn't have the number of people that I needed to launch it, and people were super generous. J. Kenji Lopez Alt, who's a guy that I really respect in the food space, I sent one to it. I didn't know his address or anything. I sent it to his restaurant. He was kind enough to share it with his audience. Andrew Ray of Binging with Babish, I sent him one. He was kind enough to share it with his audience. So you have to be willing to put yourself out there and say, hey, I made this. Do you like it or not? What's your feedback? But then it's the generosity of others. So reach out, find the people that you respect in the space that you want to launch in and start a conversation, because those relationships and the generosity of those people was key in the launch of the Pepper Cannon.
During the live campaign, when we worked with BackerKit, we just told them, as long as they're profitable, you can scale, because why wouldn't you if they are profitable? And we did get an average return on ad spend of like 350%. So every euro we put in, we got 3.5 times the amount back. And we did end up spending like on a six-figure number on ad spend. So it's a lot of money that went into it. Yeah.
Right. But as long as you can show the actual returns that you're getting, every dollar you put in, you're getting $3.50 back, or euros in this case. Keep going if that is actually profitable for your campaign.
And then the third was to build this community, right? We talked a bit about community before. That was really critical for us at the very beginning. And what you'll actually see is our V1 tri-screen is actually almost like a V1.5 compared to what we launched with on Kickstarter. And that's something that I think people don't take advantage of often enough. Was, we launched with that Xebec, and whenever we hit our goal, we were taking feedback from our backers. I think we had a couple hundred, around 200 to 300 backers in that first campaign. But we were individually messaging them. We were emailing them. We're saying, hey, what can we, what would you like to see in this model? Not just the next model. What would you like to see here before you receive it? And so there were two key features we actually improved on versus what we had advertised, and they got it pre-upgrade, if you will, was the ability to angle your screens in, which now seems like, of course, why would you not do that? So your ability to adjust your angle. And then two was actually adjusting the different input types. So this was right when Thunderbolt and USB-C with DP mode, DP alt mode had really taken off, and more laptops were coming with that integrated. So we were able to say goodbye to HDMI cables for a good chunk of our customer base. We made both of those improvements due to kind of that third element, which is building the community and using their feedback to make the product that much better.
I was essentially working 2 full-time jobs by the time I launched the second campaign, Euphoria. And at that time, I started to think about that option. And I asked my boss at my full-time job if I could take a 20% pay cut and work 1 fewer day a week. And so just work 4 days a week and spend that extra day working on Stonemaier games. And so eventually, after testing that out for 6 months, I realized, okay, I could make this work for at least a year and give it a try. And so I went full-time at Stonemaier at that point.
If you want to learn how to launch a Kickstarter campaign this year, then click the screen on this video, and I'll see you on over there.